Hey, greetings, friends. Jacque Howard here, and coming to you from the home studio in Trenton, New Jersey, Franklin Park, the studio up in Mons Brindle. This is also the location where I live with my wife and son, and this is where we do most of the civic engagement activities that I'm often talking to you about. That would include growing fruits and vegetables to offset our costs, and I've talked about that in the past on Jacque's Reach under the idea of environment. But we also, that offsets the costs, the food and vegetables that we grow here, the fruits and vegetables that we grow here. But then we're able to give it out and share it with our neighbors. We don't know what our neighbors' situations are, and it's not really that big of a deal for us. It's more about how do we become more civically engaged, let our neighbors know that we're here for them, and that we want them to be there for us as well. And it's worked out really well. And that's the basis of the media work that I do. To talk about how we can improve society by supporting the ideas of civic engagement and teaching civic engagement. And I guess the old adage of loving your neighbor as yourself. And I think oftentimes when we think about neighbors, we have, particular thoughts in our minds. Now, I'm going to do typical Jacque stuff. I'm going to be all over the place with this. But before we get started, I want to make sure that we pay some bills. One, you can find out everything that I'm doing by finding me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and also on LinkedIn and TikTok as well. Just look up Trenton 365 or the spelling of my name. In addition to that, I want to give a big shout out to WIMG 1300, the oldest radio station in the state of New Jersey and the first one to have the Trenton 365 show. So big shout out to everyone over there, Veenie, Maggie, the whole family, Steve, etc., Greg over at WPHY as well. And the reason why I like to do this is because it's important for folks to recognize that although you may be seeing me here, or I may be the point person at points in times, excuse me, but I am by no means is this a solo effort. And that means I've got, people who are helping me to become a better person, sharpening me. Iron sharpens iron. I've got people who bounce ideas off of me, who I bounce ideas off of. And with that is a team. And so, excuse me, again, with the idea of it being a team, it's not just one person. It's not just me. There's a lot of support system that is all around me. And more than likely, many of you are part of that as well. And if we're friends and if we're connected in some sort of capacity. My dog Salem wants to say hi here, or our dog Salem, as well as our two cats. We got two cats as well. They can't see you, honey. All right, so maybe later. So at this point, we've broken a little bit of the ice, but I wanted to talk about Jacque's Reach civics. And specifically under civics, I want to talk about mass incarceration and the Trenton Microloan Collaborative and the mass incarceration task force, some entities that I'm a part of. You can find out more about both of these by going to Westminster Presbyterian Church or the Nassau Presbyterian Church's website and just looking up mass incarceration or the Trenton Microloan Collaborative. And on Facebook, the Trenton Microloan Collaborative is on Facebook, and our website is trentonmicroloan.org. So earlier I was leading in talking about our neighbors and loving our neighbors as ourselves and what that actually, means and what it looks like. And even if you're not coming at it from, say, a Bible or Torah or any of the other religious books, there's an importance that we have just as human beings to be next to each other, to, as I was saying, a team, to bounce things and ideas off of, to make things, easier. Here in Trenton, like many post-industrial cities, throughout the country, the economy is based around the idea of poverty. So with that, you have lots of social service programs and nonprofit organizations and a lot of programs that are geared towards helping people in some sort of capacity. I say that because there's oftentimes when folks who have been incarcerated, they are then, when they are freed from that situation, they are then oftentimes just dropped off in locations and in places such as Trenton and said, okay, go ahead, be free, do what you have to do. And that could be with some connections, that could be with little or no connections. That could be, I would assume, with some money and financing, but maybe not. And I think everyone would understand that if you take someone who may have not, or may have been incarcerated for a certain period of time, and society has changed during that period of time, and then they're put back into a society that may be completely foreign to them. They may not understand anything about what's going on. And it may feel more comfortable to be back where they were. Now, I've never been incarcerated, but from the work that I'm learning about from the people who were close to me at the Mass Incarceration Task Force, as well as Trenton Microloan Collabortive, and the other support systems around those entities, I'm learning more and more about how this system is set up and the policies that are in place, and how difficult it is for a lot of folks, even when they're trying to do the right thing. They have a support around them to do the right thing. The odds oftentimes are still very much stacked against them, and stacked against them sometimes to the point where it becomes this never-ending fight. And for some, it's easier to go back to what is familiar. I am one of the folks that say, hey, look, sounds like this is not cool. I don't know much about it, but I'm willing to, put effort into learning so that I can educate myself, but also educate more people about this. And in doing so, I've become a part of the Mass Incarceration Task Force, which is part of Nassau Presbyterian Church and Westminster Presbyterian Church, working in collaboration, but also with other organizations such as the New Jim Crow, Not in Our Town, Princeton, the Poor People's Campaign, and many others, to learn about the policies that are in place. How do we change those policies? How do we end some of the barbaric laws that are in there, such as a solitary confinement and not allowing people to see sun and those things, but also having a real conversation about what takes place there. There's a society within that space. There's cell phones, there's pregnancies that happen there, there's different types of assaults. And in that space and in that inner world where that takes place, how do we as society work with the men and women and others who've been incarcerated, who've done what they've supposed to have done to pay their debt to society? Now they're coming back into society. If we're allowing the same things to happen, or if we're part of that machine that just takes these human beings and puts them back into another situation that's not beneficial for anyone, what responsibility do we have? Now, again, I know it's just one person. I know I'm just one person. But for me and for my family and for what we do, we said, no, we got to do something. And thankfully, I've been able to connect, at Westminster, where I worship, where I'm one of the leaders, with Nassau Presbyterian Church, with the work that they're doing to fight the injustices of mass incarceration, etc. So this is like a bit of an introduction, but to talk to you about some ideas and some suggestions that I have that we can kind of get around this. So I'm involved with two organizations. The Mass Incarceration Task Force, yes, I've said it several times, there's a reason behind it. The Mass Incarceration Task Force, that is part of Nassau Presbyterian Church and Westminster Presbyterian Church. We are working on growing our network, speaking to professionals, looking at policy changes, connecting with legislators and others to implement changes to the judicial system and ending mass incarceration. But also having those conversations about, what are the entities that are in place that have prisons as an economy, or prisons as an investment. With Westminster and our other partners and so forth, we have the Trenton Microloan Collabortive, which is our focus. And this organization, and the website is trentonmicroloan.org, and the Facebook page is Trenton Microloan Collaborative. We are working with formerly incarcerated individuals who are entrepreneurs, who have been in business for a certain amount of time, and working with them not only with funding, but also with back-end support and services, and all around just communal support to help their businesses grow and thrive. To this point, we've got 9, and we're going to be celebrating the newest recipients at Westminster on February 20. Sorry about that. It's a Sunday, so it's a week from now. Anyway, it'll be up on my social media pages, but please come out. You get a chance to meet some of the recipients, hear a bit more about the program. And if you do have the chance to go over to the Facebook page or over to the website, do that and educate yourself about what local folks are doing in partnership with others to address mass incarceration, providing microloans and ancillary support for entrepreneurs who were formerly incarcerated. And then coming alongside them, not only now, but sticking with them and being around them going forward. Tying in the idea and the concept of us being part of the same family, the human family, and the importance of us all working together civically within the context of what the greater rules are, and to move in a direction so that we can all benefit from these things. A vision that I have is to, now we've got touching things from the policy side and so forth, legislative side. We're doing things with the individuals themselves who've been out, who have returned, who are in society, who are doing things. They just need some additional support, whether it's financing or back into the house or any of those things. But then also thinking about, how do we also take the population that we have here and recognize that wherever you're from, you need to be a part of what's happening now. So a vision that I'm putting forward and looking for partners is sibling cities. And sibling cities, I know there's a nonprofit organization, I'm not affiliated with that, but the idea and the concept is that let's have relationships between the city of Trenton, where I live, and other cities and states and countries around the world where we have folks who want to come here or are already coming here, so that we can do a bit of onboarding. What is it like here? What can you expect? If you're coming from a place that doesn't have snow and you're coming here, well, there's a chance you might have to deal with snow. And what does that look like? Because we know that dealing with snow sometimes can cause death to some people who are shoveling it and they're not physically capable. Or it could cause frustrations when people maybe shovel a spot and someone else takes it, or someone puts a chair or a broken something to save a spot. Anxiety builds up and frustration builds up. Now, if those folks don't have a mutual language that they can communicate with, that could spill over or boil over or explode into something else. So my vision is that through sibling cities and partnering cities, if we do some onboarding and say, hey, look, here's what it's like here. Tell us what it's like there. Is there a cultural opportunity for exchange? Is there a youth opportunity for education or technology that we could go back and forth? I have heard people say, well, that's something the government should be doing. Well, our governments aren't in any place to do a lot of things that we as the people believe they should. So that's why it's more important for us as civically engaged people to step up and say, hey, look, I've got an idea. You may find out it can't be done. Legally, it can't be done. But if it's something you want to take on, then follow and fix the processes so that it legally can be done. There's lots of things that take place just in the administrations where we all live, work, and play that has little or no oversight. And unfortunately, with human beings, we know that with no oversight, there's really a good chance that, some things may not go the way they're supposed to go. But if we're auditing each other, if we're in community together, no one believes that they're superior above another. So therefore, there's no reason to think that, hey, I can do this because I can do this, and who cares about anyone else because I'm protected or any of those things. Tying it back into the mass incarceration thing, how many times has that probably happened? Where someone who was more connected or considered more superior in society was able to allow a family member, a friend, an associate, not have to go through the pain and the suffering that others who aren't as connected would go through and are going through. We have the ability to fix this. It's going to take some work. It's going to be painful. And some of us are probably going to have to, have some hard questions asked. But let's come at it from a space where we're going to do the best that we can. Recognize that none of us are perfect. And that together we have the ability to build a better community for everyone. Get in touch. We can have a one-on-one. I can give you a tour. Take my tour of Trenton. We can meet at one of the fantastic restaurants or businesses that I've got some association with. You can check out my Google Maps reviews and see all the hundreds of millions of photos and things on there. So, long and short of it, I am opening myself up to be a vessel to do whatever needs to be done to build a better community. I encourage you to do the same. And if I can be a part of helping you be better, don't hesitate. Reach out. Remember, it's always about justice, peace, and humility.